Com.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR Frequency Radio.
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, what's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio, where you could always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. I'm your host, Jonah Bolt, the Octorian Starseed, and today is Wednesday, October 28th, 2015, a cloudy, overcast day here in Boca Raton, Florida, where we're broadcasting live. We will be heading back to beautiful Costa Rica this weekend for a week to work on an amazing resort and project down there, which we'll be announcing very soon. But first, I want to give a shout out to StarseedRadio.com to check out the latest news and updates. We are always posting up new articles, and we have Ryan Matthew Dernick, a reporter who's always posting up on his Twitter feed there. Always posting up new articles. We have some live trackers on there and other information. And if you haven't gotten our free piece of Elite Shungite, it's an amazing quantum healing stone, please give us a call anytime at our toll-free number 888-400-2328. Or if you're also interested in free energy information, I would love to send you about 15 PDF files I have on free energy to get this information out there. You could also go to starseedtechnologies.com and fill out the form on the website. Or again, call us at toll-free 888-400-2328. I also want to mention our amazing new gold savings system that we're involved with and is sweeping the world. This is an amazing system to get your fiat currency onto a bartering system, which is what we all want to go back to, a simple bartering system. But this one is backed by gold. Check out starseedgold.com for some more information on that, or you can call us as well at the toll-free number 888-400-2328, and we can walk you through the process and how to set up a free gold savings account today. Again, that's 888-400-2328. And with that, we're going to get the show started with our daily quote. Always speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. That quote, anonymous. I'm not sure if it's anonymous to group Anon, the hackers, or if it's just an anonymous quote, but I like that quote. One more time, always speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. I know I have been there myself. So to all the truth keepers and truth speakers out there, a shout out and a hoorah to you. Thank you for speaking truth around the world. Amazing things are happening. I'm going to jump into some top headlines, and then we're going to jump to our first guest for his Portal to Ascension segment, Neil, doing some spoken word. Then we're going to jump to our very special guest from Asheville, North Carolina, Mr. Daniel Barber, talking about music, some sound healing, and his amazing involvement with Jubilee Church, which I love. Howard Hanger, shout out to Howard. I saw him a few months back, and always a delight to see the Unity Church, the Jubilee Church in Asheville, North Carolina. A shout out to Unity Church, too. I love those guys as well. Any type of organization that is a high vibrational, light-oriented organization, we love speaking truth. With that, going to jump into some top headlines. This one is from about the European Royals. But we talked about yesterday the Canadian announcement of the Prime Minister saying they're pulling all their troops out of all the wars and all of the different conflicts around the world. That's some big news coming. They've also announced they're going to legalize marijuana in Canada. We talked about the big protests that happened, almost a riot with the Hells Angels. Thousands of them had protested. This other article came out today just continuing that story. I'll post that up also on Starseed Radio. Next article, Russia issues international arrest warrant for Rothschild and Soros. We've talked about this reports before. This is not new news, but another article rehashing this. We see this over and over where the Bushes and many others have been basically had arrest warrants set out. They have been convicted in international courts for war crimes, the Bushes, Soros, and many others. Whether they actually execute these arrest warrants or not is another story, but now Russia is basically saying that yes, an arrest warrant is out for Rothschild and Soros. We know them as the banksters, gangsters that have helped plague this world with the fiat currency known as the US dollar. Paper dollar, or actually probably every other currency out there as well, is a fiat currency. Post this article up as well on Starseed Radio. CDC admits 98 million Americans were given cancer virus via the polio shot. We've been talking about viruses and also vaccines for a long time, of how these vaccines are used to transmit and to test different viruses out. Not what we want to get, but what is being done to the United States and the world population in many cases. This report is a very detailed report talking about how cancer, the semen virus, and polio vaccine fact sheet is on here that goes over some amazing factual data on this. Please get this information out to family and friends. Do not vaccinate your children with 52 different vaccines up until the age of 6. We talked about an amazing story last week, how people had gotten flu shots, very simple ones, and next thing you know, they were totally paralyzed. And this is happening all over the world, not just here in the U.S., but CDC finally admits that. Groundbreaking article. NASA gathers scientists and historian, philosophers, and theologians to prepare mankind for extraterrestrial contact. This article I saw on disclose.tv, and this article goes on to say how NASA has been making numerous discoveries of new planets and other systems out there, and now they are gathering together some of the world's best. We're not sure why, but is NASA preparing the world for alien contact? I don't like to use the word alien. It's a little negative derogatory. We like to use ET. They are extraterrestrials. If anyone's alien, it's really us. Anyways, I'll post this article up as well on starseedradio.com. And that's it for the headlines. We're going to jump into some spoken word, joined by our special guest, Neil Guar from the West Coast. Good morning, Star Brother Neil. How are you today?
Good morning, my brother. I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. Excellent. Thank you again. Awesome. And a little bit background for the listeners out there on Portal to Ascension, this amazing online platform that I've been taking part of and many others all over the planet. Stephen Greer, Laura Eisenhower, you're putting out amazing conscious content. So if you would, give us a little background on the mission of Portal to Ascension.
The mission for Portal to Ascension is the bottom line to raise the vibration of the planet, to fully allow us to be the most authentic version of ourselves and be empowered in who we are as sovereign beings. So the way we do this is through different aspects of consciousness. We bring forward events. We bring forward, in the past, music events. We do sound healings, meditations. So we've kind of streamlined everything in the last year and a half, and we've created this huge online webinar platform now where we're getting like hundreds of people every single week signing up to events. Like last week, we had Jamie Janover, who presents the Nassim Harameyn's information. He's the lead emissary of the Resonance Project. 220 people all over the world just connecting the dots and getting this information out exponentially. So Portal to Ascension, we exist now to increase the level of this awareness on the exponential level so we can just sweep the entire planet with it. And that's who we are.
I don't think a mission statement gets any better than that, brother. That was awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you for your service and your work. And that's what it's about. It's about bringing people together, synergizing, networking, bringing the information and knowledge to the masses. That is the biggest weapon we have, is the truth. And it's a weapon of light. It cannot be trumped. It cannot be put down. It cannot be stopped. And the truth is sweeping the world right now. Nations are waking up. It's amazing times we're living in. It truly is. It's beautiful. I get chills just saying that because my body resonates with that truth. It's just amazing. Now you're going to jump into some spoken word. This is a talent of yours where you have written poetry over the years, downloads, as I say, and it's slam jam poetry, but we've asked you to slow it down a little bit so that the listeners can understand. We have listeners in 162 countries around the world. being downloaded from iTunes alone, this show has grown exponentially, and a lot of the foreign listeners love to hear the spoken word, and have asked us to slow it down. So a shout out to all the foreigners out there for supporting the show, and for everyone for supporting the show. So with that, we're going to go with the daily word. What is the daily word?
Okay, the daily word for today is more like a phrase. The phrase is three waves of volunteers. And this ties into Dolores Cannon's research, and she's the one who kind of coined this term. But the premise is that Dolores Cannon was doing hypnotherapy for ever since 1950 onwards, 1960, 1950 onwards, and she was regressing people into past life therapy in order to go back to past lives to really assist them in getting over things and coming to terms with things that happen so they can live a more fulfilled life in this present life. So while she was doing that, she was taking people very deep, and all of a sudden, one day, she came across this voice that was this underlying voice, even deeper than our own subconscious or anything beyond that. And this voice was telling her about the life between lives, about in between lives on the contracts that we create in order for us to incarnate on this planet. So she was regressing people not to past lives, not to extraterrestrial lives, not to any other life except for the life that you have while you're deciding what's the next life that you're going to live. So she thought that this was a fluke. She went from, I think she was on the West Coast at that time, she went to the East Coast, and she was doing the same techniques again, and she was getting the exact same experience from this technique that she created. So what she started realizing was that from this voice that was communicating with her, that there were three waves of volunteers, and basically ETs and extraterrestrials, there's a law of non-interference. They can't come to this planet and just mess with us and directly interfere and just land like that, because we're not at the vibrational level where we can really allow that to happen, since all the chaos and all the war going on in this world. So when the first atomic bomb went off in 1945, the only type of energy that can really affect other dimensions, other civilizations, is atomic energy, nuclear energy. So there was a call that went out to the universe of all these ETs that were going to be directly affected by the fact that we have now stepped into the atomic age. The only way that they could come to Earth and really assist us in changing this was by incarnating here, because of the law of non-interference. So as of 1945, basically the call went out saying, who wants to volunteer to come to Earth? All these souls from all these dimensions and galaxies and races decided that they wanted to come here, which is why we have such a huge spur of population all of a sudden, that everybody that's basically ever incarnated on Earth, as per Dolores Cannon, and all these ET races that really wanted to come and have an invested interest in Earth are now incarnated here in order to assist in the shift. So the first wave was in 1945. The first wave were sent here. I'm reading from Dolores Cannon's website. They could, let's see here. The first wave was set here kind of to set the precedence and to open up the awareness of this information to the planet. Those people really prefer to be in solitude. They're really connected to nature. The second wave of people are meant to come here as beacons, as attendants, that there's this high cosmic divine energy that is hitting the Earth right now. So the second wave, which is currently existing probably in the 25-year-old to 40-year-old range, are here on the planet in order to allow that energy to come through them, and they channel it and raise the vibration on the planet that way. And then the third wave is called the crystalline children. That's what's happening right now. The children that are now being incarnated onto the planet to live in the paradigm that we are going to create. So that is the three wave of volunteers. And basically, everybody that's ever been here is here now, and we're here to do the same thing, which is shift the consciousness of the planet. So my spoken word piece kind of ties into this.
Excellent. I just want to say thank you for that background, Neil. That was a really excellent walkthrough of the different waves. A lot of people have confusion about that, and I just want to add a little sentence, if I may. When I was in New York up in 1998, I had met a gentleman there when I was actually in rehab as a teenager for my drug addiction, as many starseeds are addicted to different things because we don't naturally fit in this realm. But while I was in there, I had met a gentleman who was in the military and said to me one day as we were talking that high up in the ranks that he understood that after the nuclear explosion, we had basically sent a call out to the universe like, hey, humanity needs some assistance here, because that energy of all those people that had died in those nuclear blasts, that negative energy, those souls rippled through the universe, and it was a call to action. And I never knew what he really meant until, just 6 years ago, when I really had woken up when I was 30. But it stuck in my head, because here was a guy, I was 19 years old at the time, a teenager, talking to this guy in rehab, and I'm like, oh, yeah. But it always stuck with me. And then 6-7 years ago, when I started doing more research about that from other military, I was like, wow, this guy was really telling me the truth back then. And he was high up in the ranks in the military, was also suffering from a drug addiction. But nevertheless, he had told me something that was, in fact, truth. And I did not know that till about 15 years later. So we have these little synchronicities and little plugs along the way that plant the seeds in our head for later on, when these synchronicities come into place. We're like, wow, someone really did tell me that once in the military. Maybe it is true. And I dug a little deeper and found out a lot of evidence and stuff that does, support that. So excellent, walkthrough on that. So thank you, Neil. And, whenever you're ready, begin.
Yeah, and that's interesting you say that, because I've kind of felt that my whole life, that I'm from a different planet ever since I was born, and that and then I had readings, like when I went and tried to find out what my purpose was, when I was really lost and I was like really wanting to know what it was, and I would keep getting this message that you're just here to be. You're just here to be. That no matter what happens, the energy is coming down the planet and you will be. So it was about me just letting go of what I really needed to do in order for me to become who I should become. And then that leads into this spoken word piece. I wrote this. This is actually the first spoken word piece I did on my segment here, but I did it pretty fast. So I'm going to redo it. I wrote this, and this is the one poem that I wrote that I never gave a name to, because I never really, it's about everything to me. I didn't really understand what it's about. So check out this synchronicity. I realized I was going to do the 3 waves as the word today, and then I thought about the poem that I wanted to write, and I realized that the poem is actually about the 3 waves and incarnations of starseeds, and your starseeds experience from incarnating into this planet up until realizing how crazy it is, but also at the same time knowing that there's some deep underlying truth. So I'm going to name this poem 3 Waves as of today.
Nice. Beautiful.
And here we go.
Thank you.
The road goes on for generations. The travelers would disperse their light amongst all the willingly incarnated souls. But what if the ones who didn't know? Amnesia of the internal endowment to reserve a place in the 5th dimension for themselves, the ego to control, and the better life they shall never know. I welcome you, Dark One, into the lap of luxury followed by pain and woes. We all sold our souls to the devil, but the devil exists not. Negative energy we dub as evil creates the demons of whom we are fearful. Take the D from the demon, put it in front of the word evil, and now you have a personified devil. Our thoughts and experiences creates this creature only exists in the mind. Our desires and wants creates this full-feature ego, keeping our lower selves from reaching the divine. Intellect, love and a perfect understanding we will have with one another. I welcome you, my brother, my lover, my sister, to become one, to help me become one, before reality tears me from duality and back into ether's imagination. You see, I'm the ghost of lives past. Generations have descended to gain these experiences, and I pray the human situation is critical, mind analytical, won't let me forget the fall of angels and demons into its 3rd dimensional world. Is this planet yours? May I hide amongst the lost souls? Hide out for a bit, drink some liquor, smoke some weed, and step outside for a cigarette? Yeah, sure, man. Here's the social security card you may live. Reincarnated into a kid to live and give back to the society you in. I'm locked in borders. I smolder, but through the ashes comes a horde of abstract thought, who was not a ghost, a spirit, but just is, an enlightened individual. Equality minus the elitist political goal, the cynical flow through pain and woes and shamanistic pagan rituals. We will resurrect the Messiah in all of us. It's time to trust our brothers and sisters. Unity of mind, consciousness, awareness on the rise. The yin-yang intertwined on the masculine, feminine lovers intertwined. I spit words from the chakra points in my spine. Relentless, but I still fine. Inner peace helps slow down the pace of my corrupted mind. Chemtrails, aspartame, and fluoride kept my awareness fried. Getting drunk and high to block the constant question of why am I really here? But now I know it's to help humanity steer into the right direction. For all of you, I feel affection. We're in the same situation. So erase the awkward moments, trying to walk around and get that bonus. Remember, the Syrians will be one of the group of interdimensional beings through mass landings in the future will help us souls really breathe and break free from the shackles of captivity that we formed in our own mentality, because my sister, my brother, we are and we have always been free. Thank you.
Woo! Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you again, Neil, for your spoken word and your download of truth. I love when you said I spit the truth through my chakra spine.
Yeah,
Amazing. I
like that
love
one
it.
too.
Every week you set the bar even higher, brother, with your spoken word and truth and the work you're doing, and just all around, brother, you are a true being of light and love, and blessed and
Thank you,
honored
man.
to walk this planet with you. Really, it's truly awesome.
I feel the same about you, bro.
Thank you, and I will speak to you later tonight. And
All right, man.
with that, we're going to jump to our next guest, and please check out portal2ascension.com, and also check out some of Neil's work, and he's doing some amazing sacred geometry. Check out sacredgeometryshop.com as well for some amazing artistic sacred geometry that you could put anywhere. Yoga mats, iPhone cases, amazing stuff they're doing to get the sacredness out to the masses. It's so important. So thank you again, Neil. Have a great
Thank you,
day.
brother. Love you, man.
Love
Bye.
you too, brother. And with that, we're going to jump to our special guest all the way from the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. I had heard about this guest, Daniel Barber, a few years ago when I was living in Asheville for about 4 years, and his name always popped up when it came to community involvement, music, and it's a really great honor to have him on the show because he's been such a carrier of the torch of truth and light, weaving his music with the Jubilee Church and Howard Hanger. So it's good to have him on the show. With that, Daniel, how are you today? Thanks for coming on.
I'm great, man. It's so cool to be here. I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me to get to be a part of this conversation. And wow, after Neil, I don't know if I really have much to say. I'm pretty blown away. I'm just going whoa. So I don't know. But
He's amazing. I get chills every week. He's just, my body just resonates with that so strongly when you hear just pure truth coming. It's quite amazing. And you're involved into music and sound healing as well, Daniel. So I wanted to, if you would, Daniel, give us a background story on yourself, how you first came to Asheville. Did you have an awakening and you were sort of guided there, or how was the journey to Asheville began, and then how did you get into sound healing? If you would lead us on that journey, please.
Well, that's an awesome question. I appreciate that because I think it's helpful, isn't it, to know where we come from and to see
Absolutely.
see from what soil we came and what's bringing us along. I will try to just to mention the main points. I think one of them is that I was raised in a middle-class family in suburban Fort Worth, Texas. And, I was raised a fairly fortunate kid. I wasn't hungry. I was healthy. My family was pretty decent. I wasn't abused as a kid. It was kind of like, I sort of lived the 50s, it wasn't in the 50s, but that kind of dreamy, American white middle class life, and I had classical piano lessons when I was a kid, and I loved music, and I learned to play music as a kid, learning to play classical composer, dead composer music, and ended up kind of going through my early childhood, just always doing what I was told, and I mean not always, but I was a good kid. I sort of was the kind of kid that didn't cause the teachers too much trouble, and I didn't start getting high till I was in college, and it was that kind of deal. And I have come to find out in my later years that I was basically terrified of stepping outside of the boundaries. I was terrified of stepping outside of the of what's accepted. And so I've been on this journey for most of my life of learning how to step outside of what I think is okay and exploring. Like Neil said, we're free and trying stuff that's outside of the societal rules, and seeing what's out there. It's not necessarily evil or the devil to do something that a bunch of a bunch of white men decided, this is the rule, and you do this and you don't do that, or we're going to throw you in prison or whatever. And I, for a long time, I got into social work, and I became a statistician to actually try to figure out how to make a difference in global hunger. I came to North Carolina to study food issues and global hunger issues, and to look at the systemic factors that play into that, so that in this naive idea that I had that I would sort of figure this out and then go explain it to the policymakers, and they would go, "Oh man, thanks so much for explaining this. We'll get right on it," And I ended up kind of having an awakening around that, and around 1990, and ended up getting into video production, and for quite a few years I did videos for nonprofits to help them get the word out about what their cool stuff that people are doing at the grassroots to make the world a better place, and I did that for about 15 years, and along the way my second marriage fell apart. I had a dark night of the soul. I went into a lot of questioning and so on, and I'll tell you this story real quick. I went to a leadership conference.
Daniel, if you can't hold on right there, we're going to go to a commercial break. And when we get back, let's jump right back into the story. So just hang on right there. And you're listening to Starseed Radio. We're joined with Daniel Barber from Asheville, North Carolina. We'll be right back after these messages. Check out starseedradio.com.
Be scary. Wonder what they think of me. All fears evolved in the confidence eventually. Now I rip stages, bust down the microphone, study with the sages, dust down the microphone, channeling the greatest. Speak through the mouthpiece. Little red bone fire starter from the southeast. Run with the warriors. Armors on my chest plate. Meet you with the battle horns blaring at the west gate. No time for dead weight.
The Rundown live with Mike and Kristen, Monday through Thursday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Off the moon and back.
Will you watch the world burn from your jet? Or plant a tree on your spaceship? We'll never find another home, but we can feel the wind blow. Will you watch the world burn from your jet? Or plant a tree on your spaceship? We'll never find another home, but we can feel the wind blow. Music on the radio.
All right, welcome back to the show. What a great segment song to come back into. Plant a tree on your spaceship. What a perfect song, I say, for our guest, Daniel Barber, who's joining us from the beautiful mountains, Blue Ridge Mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. We're talking about Daniel's story, a little bit about his background and how it led to getting to North Carolina and getting involved with the Jubilee Church, with music and amazing sound healing. And with that, Daniel, thanks for coming on. And let's pick up where we left off before the commercial break, if you would. I know you were explaining a story. And before we do that, I just want to mention that there is an amazing summit coming up. Neil forgot to mention, I just want to give him a plug real quick. We have the Starseed Summit #2 coming up, and this is an amazing summit that's going to feature Dolores Cannon's daughter and also some amazing other speakers. So check out portal2ascension.com for the Starseed Summit. Neil forgot to mention that, so I want to give him a plug. And with that, Daniel, again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jonah. And hearing some of those messages, and hearing your announcements and so on, it's got me really intrigued about finding out more about what you guys are doing. It sounds really cool.
Excellent, thank you. And with that, Daniel, just please continue, if you would, on your journey into Asheville and your story you were about to tell before commercial.
Well, I'm kind of glad that we got stopped there, because I have a tendency to ramble on about detail, and I guess the
yeah, I do it too.
The essence of what I want to say really is that I spent a lot of my early life, I guess the first 40 years of my life, trying to change the world. I spent a lot of my energy trying to change the world. I was a death penalty activist for several years. For most of the 90s, I was a statewide activist in North Carolina around campaign finance reform, and I was always trying to figure out how to make the external world, a better place. And I was kind of single-minded about that. And at one point, my second marriage collapsed, and I found myself in a room full of people at a conference that were talking about leadership, and the microphone was going around, and there were a lot of corporate management types in this room, and I had gotten to this conference because I wanted to hear a couple of particular people, and doesn't have to get into that, but it was I found myself in this conference where there were a lot of corporate management type people, and I was an activist, right? This was not the kind of folks that I would normally spend my time with, and on the mic was going around and people were talking about their various challenges in their workplace and how to deal with certain workplace situations. And the mic came to me and I said, well, what I'm concerned about is that there's all this life energy in this room that's being devoted to trying to figure out how to make the workplace more enjoyable and productive, and so that people won't leave and you won't have to rehire and retrain and spend money on retraining, and so that the bottom line will go up and the corporation will continue to survive and rake towards the planet. And I said, my question is, can capitalism be healed? This was a conference at a place where they did Buddhist meditation in the mornings, and then we would have these intellectual conversations later in the morning, and then some sort of creative process in the afternoon, and it was a really holistic. It was a pretty interesting experience. And on the third day, I'm sitting there meditating, and I'm going, I've got all my sort of political, social ideas that are running around in my head, and those are the thoughts that are running through my head, right? Just noticing and meditating. It's like, oh, those are just my thoughts. They're just my thoughts. They're just my thoughts. And then I'm like, okay, and I've got my thoughts, and this person over here has their thoughts, and who am I to think that my thoughts are, I think they're more educated than somebody else's, or more refined, or whatever, or more accurate, but that's a thought too. And so I went back into that room that day. This was about 2001, I guess. And I said, my question on Monday was, can capitalism be healed? And now it's, can I be healed? And so I've spent a lot of the last, I guess, about 14 years doing a lot of my own healing work. And it's fascinating to me the multidimensionality of life and the ways in which the things that I see out in the world, are some sort of reflections of me, and how I can actually make a difference in the world by looking at myself and looking at ways that I am ignorant of some things, or are mean or cruel to myself, or even murder aspects of myself and keep them in the closet or keep them in prison. And so it's become much more of a process for me of exploring and living and freely exploring this miracle of life that we have. And music, I think, is a really wonderful way to express feelings that are kind of beyond words, and beyond the story.
I just want to say, Daniel, thank you so much for saying that, because I've been hearing this, especially over the last year, and I don't know if the unity consciousness is coming together, but so many of my guests, and even myself, have noticed or have gone to self in the last year or two. Everyone has gotten that it's time to work on self, because the more we work on ourself, that is what grows and co-creates in the reality that we're all creating together and projecting. So to hear you say that, another guest is just confirmation that we are heading in a unity consciousness direction, because it's not by chance. So many, I even had Sterling Allen on the show, and he's from, SciWiki, the Pure Energy Systems, the largest site on the internet for free energy devices. And he's been the leader in free energy around the world for 20 years. And when I asked him that question, I said, well, what are your latest projects? What are you doing? What's the latest free energy updates? He's like, you know what? I've just been working on myself, actually.
Wow.
And it's just to hear you and many others say it. It's confirmation. I've interviewed hundreds of people over the last 6 years, hundreds and hundreds, maybe even the thousands. And the last year, it's been such a common tone. So I just lit up when you said that. We're all going back to that. The more we work on ourselves and go back to self, I think the easier it's going to be for us to co-create. As you were saying, you did everything you can to save the planet. You're an activist and protesting, and me the same. And when I first woke up, it was like everything I could do to get the word out, and everything. And then now it's well, none of those things actually actualize into what I envisioned, and why?
Yeah,
because my intent was so pure, and the law of attraction works. So how come things aren't manifesting? And these questions kept coming up. I try so hard. My intent is so pure. How come I can't actualize this? And it came back to self. So anyways, I just wanted to say that thank you, and it's really assuring to me and to the listeners that we are going towards unity consciousness, and when we do hit that 100th monkey effect, and we do hit that critical mass, it will shift the consciousness of people, and people will not be able to pull the trigger, and people will not be able to kill the whales, because they'll be conscious beings, and that's where we're headed. And this is more confirmation of that unity consciousness. It's like we're all getting on the same page, for lack of better words.
Wow,
so,
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's just so good to hear that. And if you could, Daniel, go into a little bit about your sound healing journey. I know you also do sound healing. How did that come about? Where did that come from? Did you have an experience, or was that someone told you about maybe? How did you get into sound healing?
Well, it's a great question, and it's related to what you were just talking about coming back to self. Along about the same time that I had that experience at that conference, I also was getting back to the piano. I had really basically stopped playing the piano. I would sit down at it for for a few weeks maybe or something over the course of a year or two, and then I'd stop and I'd get bored and I'd stop. And this second marriage fell apart, and I had that experience at that conference, and I was just spending more time sitting down at the piano and just playing for my own therapy and my own healing. And I found that there's just so much richness in being able to sit down and make sounds that that are soothing or energizing or beautiful. Coming up with new chords or coming up with new combinations of notes or rhythms that are reassuring to my soul. And so it really was just a process of discovering that, wow, some of the times that I feel the most connected to myself and to the world is when I'm hearing sounds that just reach way down in me, and it's like this love massage from the universe. And from what I know about quantum mechanics and physics and so on, which I got really into in the 80s for a while, we're all sonic. We're all, life is, and the whole universe is this buzzing field of life and consciousness and energy, and that's what we are. And so music, I think, is a way to amplify our thoughts and experiences in a way that can reflect back in us, like in some really, not like, but reflect back on us and in us in some very deep ways.
Now, the particular style or type of sound healing that you're into. Maybe you can go a little bit into that, Daniel. There's all different sound healing out. You have scalar sound healing and crystal bowls and all different types of different sound healing out there. What are some different techniques that you have used or that you currently use in the sound healing world?
I am not officially, for one thing, I'm not officially connected to any of those things. And I guess your question isn't really about what's official, but I'm just trying to articulate my response.
Sure.
I don't really have a category of things that I do. I don't have any singing goals, but I wish I did. But I see sound healing maybe a little bit more broadly than some. I play drums. I play hand drums. I've played in African percussion groups, and I like and I played jazz. I had a wedding band for quite a few years. I play at Jubilee on Sunday mornings. I play drums for ritual. I help facilitate Vision Quest experiences. I have led a ritual that was created by Matthew Fox that you may or may not have heard of, called the Cosmic Mass. And I just do a lot of different things and use whatever rhythm or melody or instrument that feels appropriate to the moment. There have been times when I've done some one-on-one work with people that sometimes that involves drumming, sometimes it involves just toning. I think sound is in itself when we just bring our intention to be authentic and to listen into what it is that's wanting to be expressed within us, and find ways to amplify it by making sounds. That expression can be really deeply cathartic, and when we listen, it can be deeply reassuring. And so, I like to do a lot of different things. In fact, I think that my ambition as a sound healer would be to make sounds that a lot of people just interpret as music and experience as entertainment, maybe even, but actually reaches way down into their souls, and they realize, wow, I'm a bigger being than I thought. There's much more going on in this existence than I thought. That would be my I guess goal, is to always be a healer, regardless of what it looks like on the outside.
Absolutely. As you're saying this, Daniel, I had looked and still do look at that as sound healing, music in itself. When I was younger, in my teenage years, when I went to a rehab, they used to have a group where they used to just sit us in a room and play music and have us close our eyes. And that was really the first time I used to actually listen to music. And they used to play really emotional songs, and next thing you know, you'd hear people crying, and I would start crying, and what they were doing was just simply using music as therapy and tuning us in. And I never really got that till years later, but later on, after I was sober, I became a health tech and worked in a very prominent rehab, the third top in the country. I became a behavioral health tech and did suicide training, and to give back. And I worked in this facility for a year, and I used to run my own classes, and I called it musical therapy, and not even knowing that's what I was doing or healing. And I would shut the lights off and put on a red light or a blue light and just play music, and just the same thing would happen. People would start crying and going through emotions, and it was that showed me and taught me, even before I knew the music was really activating in frequencies, but it was healing, because that crying and that emotion was allowing that healing to process. And
Absolutely.
up until that point, I'd never cried. We're taught like men don't cry and things like that. And now I always say I'm in such a beautiful place where I could look at a butterfly and cry and just and appreciate that beauty. And I'm so thankful to be in a place that I can look at a butterfly and cry. It's like, wow, have I really
Yeah.
come that far? And it's like coming from what I came from. It's a journey, and it's like coming
That's
from this
awesome.
programming. And I read on your website, danielbarber.com, that you also wrote that as well. So I just wanted to bring that up, that you, through your journey as well, had experienced healing and different things, and it was a very similar path I feel we're all on. So to hear you say the same thing is very again a synchronicity to say that we're on the right path with bringing truth, and you through your music and healing, and that's what you do with the Jubilee Church. Maybe you can go into a little bit, Daniel, about the Jubilee Church, Howard Hanger, how that first came about, and how that experience has been, and maybe give the listeners a little background on the Jubilee Church.
Okay. Yeah, Jubilee was created in 1989 by Howard. He was ordained in the Methodist Church, and you can't introduce Howard without saying that he was for a lot of his early adult years, he was a jazz musician and traveled the world playing jazz music and being a jazz rock star. And
for lack of better words.
yeah. And there are no sufficient words for Howard. He's quite a character. But he started Jubilee in '89, and I got connected with it in about '01. It was along about the same time. And he always had music was always important to him, and so one of the first things that they did when they started Jubilee was they got a grand piano, a really old 1908, I think, Steinway grand piano, and they always had music there, and so by the time I started coming in '01, there was already a band there. There was a drummer and a bass player and guitar player and a flute player and they were playing every Sunday, and I started going and just sitting in with the band and playing a djembe and just sitting there and just playing some percussion. And I was really depressed from my divorce, and I was just basically wanting to go somewhere where I could have a good time, and you can usually have a good time in Jubilee. And along the way, and this was about the time that I was just starting to sit back down at the piano again, and one day after a few months, I was sitting there and at my house on the piano, and I would spend hours a day at the thing. And one day I'm thinking, I need to figure out how I can make a little bit of money doing this, to like justify all the time that I'm spending playing the piano, as if that's a logical thought. But I just had that thought, and I need to figure out what I can do with this. And the next day, Howard calls and asks if he said the person who had been playing the piano and leading the band was moving out of town, and would I be willing to lead the band? And I was just amazingly stunned because I couldn't imagine actually getting to play the piano for a ritual like we do at Jubilee. We play all kinds of mostly pop music, and stuff that we've all heard on the radio for all of our lives. And one of the underlying principles at Jubilee is that God is in everything, and that everything is in God. We're all it's all sacred, and to me, it's a really powerful experience to be in something that looks, it's like church, but we're playing all kinds of awesome, old time rock and roll and Lean on Me, and my dream for years was to play Sympathy for the Devil in church, and we actually did that one time. And it's just the message that comes through is that everything is sacred. Everything is sacred. Everything you've ever heard is sacred. at some level. Everything you do is sacred, and there's more going on than we can ever imagine. So I really love the opportunity to play music in that kind of environment where we get to go in and, like you say, start playing some song, and people find themselves crying or having realizations or ahas about themselves that are completely new and potentially transformative. So, what better gig than that?
Absolutely, and I know every time I go to the Jubilee Church, Daniel, it's always just a great vibration there, and I wish more churches and organizations were like that, where they really just embrace everybody for who they are, no judgment. There's no set God, there's no set person. It's a higher perspective of the universe and oneness, and that's what Jubilee represents. And it's just always good to see Howard, and he's just a ball of light. And being involved with them, I'm sure, for almost 15 years now, you've got the chance to come across so many other beautiful souls that you've really helped touch their lives through your music. And that's, I think, part of obviously your mission is to bring sound healing through your music, and that's what you do. And that music is resonating and activating for people and lights people up. And people need that right now. The world is going crazy, and that's why we go over the news, not to go into the news and harp about what the problems are, but just so people are aware of how crazy it is, and then going back to balance to see how just beautifully everything is in place for us to just be. And that's what's so cool. It's like, yeah, look at all this crazy crap happening around the world, but you know what? Everything is still good. And it's to have that balance took a long time for me, and that's the journey, I think.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It is a journey. How do we hold our center and hold our truth and our love and our light and our goodness, our essential original goodness in the midst of the craziness that is going on all over the place. And you said that
Absolutely.
Beautifully.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that.
Go ahead.
I want to say really quick that sound. That's one of the things about sound that I thought about earlier, is that sound does amplify these love vibes. We talk about vibes. It's in our language. It's like sound does that, and we all are sonic beings. We're all musical, and so we can all participate when we step into who we really are. We can all do these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I just wanted to say the sentence I was looking for before was, you spent the past decade or so trying to unlearn what you knew. And I think that first person I heard that from was Yoda, and how true it was. You first must unlearn everything you've been taught. And what a download Star Wars is really to the truth of how real things are, and how we're all coming back to being the Jedi and finding that balance within the Force. And so that stuck out when I read over your information as well, was that's where a lot of us are at. And Daniel, give out your information, if you would, on where people can find out more information about you. You have an upcoming event, One Voice, a benefit coming up, if you would, please.
Yeah, thank you. I do have a website that I've been working on. It's not quite ready to go, but you can see a couple of blog posts there and get a little bit of info at danielbarber.com. I'm hoping to have a course ready soon that if you go ahead and sign up and leave me your info, I'll get you some more stuff soon about that to help people connect with their innate musicality, and so I'm excited about that coming up. And I'm going to be doing a show, if you're around the Asheville area. I'm going to be doing an event for Our Voice, which is an organization that supports women who have been victims of domestic violence or other kinds of abuse or problems in their lives, and that'll be on Thursday, the November the
There's a
12th
public outcry
at
for
the
people who
YMI.
want a better planet. And there are
Excellent.
powers
Thank
that
you
be
so much,
evil,
Daniel,
let them
again, for all your
plan.
service and
Look
work
at
in the
the
world. We
Japan,
really
could they
appreciate and
really
honor
plan it?
that,
Headed
and we
for
hope
the
to have you back
iceberg
soon.
like the
Daniel
Titanic.
Barber.
Atlantic mystery, Atlantis
Thanks,
right from
Dana.
history, the truth about the
You're
pyramids and
listening to
ancient
Stars
Mayan
Radio.